Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
I remember when the ATL wasn't banging, now they banging. Niggas throwing sets and them bullets start ringing, bitches banging. I remember when the ATL wasn't banging, now they banging. Niggas throwing sets and them bullets start ringing like bang, bang, oh, bang, bang, bitch, nigga, bang, 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 bang.
Good evening. What's going on? What's happening? What's happening? Hey, I know it's late. Some of y'all probably getting yourself together, man. Get ready to go to sleep. Get ready for the week or whatever. Just sit tight, man. Get cozy. Drink your glass of warm milk or whatever the fuck you do at night before you go to bed. But I wanted to pose a question. And a lot of this is surrounded around the whole DSA, situation up in New York and some of the talking points that's coming out of it. Look at it as a preview for this week's episode of TFP, where we're going to be discussing this very topic. And, I ain't saying it's going to be heated or nothing, but it should be very interesting between myself, Ricardo, and, of course, our resident communist Van Cap. You know what I'm saying? It should be very interesting. Again, like I've said before, it ain't a situation with me where it's a policy issue, because it's not. At the end of the day, whatever the party dictates in terms of a policy position, that's just what it is. That I can dispute it through my vote. Yeah, I can of course do that. But that's the whole measure of what we're talking about here tonight. Are we basing our entire existence on democracy in and of itself, which again is false? It's not a real foundation for how this society works. Do we participate in quote unquote democracy? Yeah. But what's the foundation of government? The foundation of government is the representation via this process in which we call democracy. That's just one phase of the totality of the process. And I need people to understand that. I'm pretty sure most understand that, but they get so caught up in certain measures where the definition gets lost in translation. That's why so many people use the idea of democracy as the sole basis of whatever the situation may be politically, and that shit is like not true at all. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. So today, as I was perusing through X, the cesspool formerly known as Twitter, right, I saw an interesting video. Again, it's Sunday. I'm just getting my motor running for the start of the week. I'm perusing through X and I saw an interesting video. It was with Ta-Nehisi Coates. I think he was on Carl's show. They played a clip of James Carville, and James Carville was on Fox. I have the clip right here. We're finna get ready to play it here in a minute. But just to give you an idea of what's what. They played a clip of James Carville saying something disparaging about DSA on Fox News. And Ta-Nehisi Coates responded. And, I just leave it at that. I'm going to play the video. And let me know that y'all can hear me clear and I ain't glitching or no shit like that. I think I'm out the dead zone now. I just got in Florida. Got a couple more hours to go before I stop for the night. So as y'all are getting ready to count sheep, I'll just be getting to my destination. Then I got maybe like an hour. Damn, they got somebody here. I got maybe like an hour after that before I can settle in for the night. But I'm gonna play this interaction. Well, let me not call it an interaction. Let me call it a reaction of James Carville by Ta-Nehisi Coates. And then we're going to come on the other side. And I'm going to give my take. And I'm going to let this be a reference point to VanCat. Because I'm going to play this again on Thursday. Because I got to hear his take on this. I got to hear it. Because then I'll have a baseline on where a person like VanCat stand with this whole situation. And like I said, there's been a lot of discourse happening online. A lot of discourse. And I think we're finna get ready to go down a dangerous path. And when I say we, I'm talking about perspective, inline moderates. We're about to get ready to go down a dangerous path. And even just black voters overall. I think we're about to get ready to go down a dangerous path that I ain't think we're quite ready for. That we simply we ain't ready for it. I don't think so. Because now we might be in a position where we're fighting on two separate fronts now. One, the far left, the other, the far right. The problem with a lot of moderates, the problem with a lot of black voters, we don't draw lines in the sand as far as our policy position. Something exclusive to that group of voters, whatever the group may be. You can belong in different groups. But let me play this video real quick. Then we're going to come on the other side and I'm going to pose the question. I'm going to pose a very important question. But let's play it real fast.
Israel and American foreign policy towards Israel. Let me play for you what Democratic strategist James Carville had to say and get your thoughts to it about the candidates here in New York City. Take a listen.
I don't think that the congressional Democrats should seat her as a member of the Democratic Party. You can't kick her out of Congress. She was voted, but she doesn't have to be in a Democratic caucus. I don't have anything in common with Ms. Chevalier, and I really don't want to be in the same party she's in.
Your reaction to that, Ta-Nehisi?
Wow. You do this to me every time I come on an interview. Like something that leaves me completely speechless. Because look, the problem with that is, like, look, whatever you think of future Congresswoman Chevalier, she represents actual voters. Okay, she represents actual voters. And what James Carville is saying is that those voters should be disenfranchised. that he is so disgusted with whatever opinion she has that those voters should be disenfranchised. And I don't get it, man. I don't like, that is a district filled with black and brown people. They made their choice and he just doesn't respect it. You know what I mean? Which to me says, not so much, it's not so much a statement on Palestinians. It's not so much a statement on Israelis. It's not so much a statement on, anything that future Congresswoman Chevalier has said. It's a statement on how he feels about black and brown people. And the fact that they are useful to him when they vote the way that he agrees with. When they don't, kick them out the party. They don't deserve representation. I'm trying not to say Jimmy for life. It's not good. It's not good, Eamon. It's not good.
It's not good. It's not good for democracy.
Let
me, if I can, maybe close out by asking you to kind of give us a gut check whether this is more than just a vibe check, right? I think there would be some critics who will say, and correct me if I'm wrong here, not that the central thesis of why Kamala Harris lost the campaign was because about Gaza, but Gaza was certainly a factor in the reason why she lost. What would you say to critics who say it was actually about inflation, it was about economics, it was about a lot of other things? Gaza was not something that pollsters came up with, pundits thought was an issue, and it might not be an issue going forward, that the party's fixation on this right now, as some Democrats are warning, is misguided.
Yeah, I can't really tell you that that's why she lost. I don't have, that data. I don't have those sorts of numbers. But I mean, to me, look, I know the headline was what the headline was, but I was less interested in that than asking the question of whether, in fact, someone who would not have been in that place if it was not for the Black freedom struggle, and I think this is actually not just true of Kamala Harris anymore, but in true of the Democratic Party itself, that it owes its very present existence to the Black freedom struggle. Is it actually honoring the core morality and principles of that struggle? And are we settling for an interpretation that says human rights, civil rights for certain people, and screw everybody else? Or was this supposed to be about something bigger? Was it, did human actually mean human? And my argument is, in the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, in the words of Coretta Scott King, in the words of W.E.B. Du Bois, in the words of Martin Luther King, it was always supposed to be bigger. If this is just interest group politics, I mean, I don't know what that is. Then I don't have a place in that party, and I don't have a place in that coalition myself.
Okay, so that was the video I saw. I'm assuming that this happened earlier today. I don't know. Maybe it happened yesterday. I don't know. That was an interview Ta-Nehisi Coates did. And that segment of the interview, they were reacting to James Carville and what he said. I take heed to the words of James Carville for the most part. James Carville is a brilliant Democratic mind. Like, even all these years have passed since 1992, and he's still being revered as one of the great political strategists of our time, still to this day. Some people think he done expired, you know what I mean? And it may be some merit to that. I'm not saying it's not. The fact of the matter is, he still get play to this very day because of his political strategy mind. That's just a fact. I don't fuck with it in regard to him going on Fox News. It almost come off as exploitative. That Fox called him up and said, "Hey man, we would love to have an interview with you to get your thoughts on the Democratic primaries for the Congress seats in New York." And he bit hook, line, and sinker. You know what I'm saying? He bit. That's just what it is. He shouldn't have did it, especially in this climate that we're in right now politically. He shouldn't have did it. That I can agree with y'all. What he said versus what Ta-Nehisi Coates reacted to was two different fucking things. Ta-Nehisi Coates may very well be the catalyst behind the modern day reparations movement with his paper entitled "The Case for Reparations," which got national attention. I never take that away from him. But he sounded so daft in that interview because he was talking about nothing that James Carville said on Fox News. James Carville led with a caveat saying that she was duly elected. The people elected. Talking about Chevalier. He led with that. You now bringing up that somehow he's attacking the principle of democracy. He never did that. Like, that's why this shit come off as like insincere and bad faith, because he moved the goalpost. Then he started talking about black and brown folk. I'm like, what the hell they got to do with anything? Like, what the hell are we talking about? So with that being said, I pose a question to you. Was James Carville talking about democracy as a whole? Or was he talking about the infrastructure of the Democratic Party, which James Carville is very, very eloquent in describing? That's just a fact. James Carville knows the inner workings of the Democratic Party. If he don't know shit else, he know that. Meaning he knows how the financial system of the Democratic Party works, i.e. fundraising and bill and ballot pushing via the DNC. James Carville knows about all that shit. James Carville knows about the policy position of the party as a whole, even though, yes, everybody will admittedly say that it's a big tent. At the end of the day, within that big tent, there is inner dialogue, inner debate as far as policy position. James Carville knows all that shit. That was shit Ta-Nehisi Coates simply did not talk about. Did not talk about. James Carville tried to make it an issue of him somehow, attacking her as a person and not saying that she doesn't identify, which in the past she did not identify with the party, meaning the policy position, the inner workings, et cetera, et cetera. That's a fact. We're living in a time right now where, again, we're catching it from both sides based on miscalculations and misinterpretations of what shit is. Ta-Nehisi Coates is a brilliant person, smarter than me, trained in all the right areas. I never was. But Ta-Nehisi Coates played a role in that moment. And I think it was shameful, just to be honest with you. Nobody is attacking the voters for voting her in. Ain't nobody doing that. The question that I hear being posed by other Democrats within the party is, why are they doing this through the Democratic Party? Why? The DSA's issues is not a party issue. So I think it was disingenuous on Ta-Nehisi Coates' part by portraying that message from James Carville the way he did, because it was false. I got to defend James Carville on this. James Carville led with the caveat saying she was duly elected. The people voted her in. That part he's not disputing or disparaging in any way. James Carville is saying, based on my principles, from a position standpoint as a Democrat, she does not reflect those same principles. Therefore, she don't belong in the fucking party. Now, internally, that's some shit that they got to work out. Because I'm not in Congress. I ain't on Capitol Hill. He mentioned black and brown people, the majority of the black population in that district, where Chevalier won yet again, just like in Mamdani's race, did not vote for her. They voted for the incumbent. There's that. So when we talk about narratives and motherfuckers pushing narratives, this is what I'm talking about. It just don't happen on the right. It don't happen on the right. It happens on the left too. And then now in some cases, it may be more extreme going forward on the left. I'm gonna just be honest with you. I'm gonna continue to say it, black people. I'm talking about black Americans. We in a fight for our political lives right now because we catching hell on both sides. A storm is brewing. Last week, I couldn't remember what the diagram was called. It was the Venn diagram where you got the three circles and then where the circles merge in the middle. That's the statistical lines of contrasting views versus familiarities, right? Within the Venn diagram, if we're looking at only two circles, within the Venn diagram, there's two things that intersect. One of them is foreign policy. That's both on the extreme right and extreme left, coincide with each other as far as that policy position. They don't give a shit about Israel. They don't give a shit about Gaza. Now, again, I can understand it from a moral standpoint. I can understand it. Israel is horrible because of what they're doing in these Middle Eastern nations, Lebanon and Gaza, et cetera, et cetera. You think I'm gonna let that prioritize me? No, the hell I ain't. But the America First right and the river to the sea left both agree with that position. And Ukraine is just a casualty. Ukraine ain't got shit to do with nothing. You got to go too, just for the principle of it. Second is the mirage of affordability in terms of the popular perspective. Everybody wants shit to be more affordable. That's a general opinion. It's the way in which you go about it is the problem. I told y'all, the America First right, they not capitalists. They not for the principles of individuality. They just as commie as the fucking left is. I've been saying that shit for years now. They want the state to do everything. The state, i.e. mean the government. They want them to do every fucking thing. Or they exhibit what I call, and y'all heard me talk about this before with libertarians, they exhibit what I call shut the door politics. Meaning they capitalize, that's a key word, capitalize. I didn't mean to do quotations, but key word. They capitalize on certain policy, even if it's right, wrong, and indifferent. That's not the point. They capitalize on certain policies, and when they reach a certain pinnacle, they shut the door on everybody else. It's just the right is on one side of the door and the left is on the other side of the door. The right meaning a lot of the far right Anglo-Saxon whites benefit from all these government protections and allocations of land, what their ancestors got, all this shit. Then they shut the door as far as any type of supplementing policy for anybody else. Ellis Island, all type of shit. Shut the door. With the left is we come in and we take advantage of subsidies and this, that, and the third. We gentrify all the niggas out their community, but we gonna put a Black Lives Matter sign in the yard though. And then once we get to a certain position within society, we shut the door. And now we make it, we become one issue voters, and we gonna do everything possible to make ourselves look the loudest. Gaza, AIPAC, I've been saying this shit for years about the libertarians. The libertarians, the same situation with the right. Afforded so many supplemental programs from the government for decades and decades now. And that's why don't nobody really listen to the libertarians. I'm a libertarian-minded person, but I'm realistic in my approach. Certain shit got to happen in order for that shit to be fulfilled. We're not there yet. Just not. So yes, I'm in total agreement when it comes to what James Carville said. He didn't say nothing bad or wrong. If you saw TFP last week, we mentioned James Carville podcast. He gave a comprehensive explanation as to why he don't rock, in particular with Chevalier, why he don't rock with her. She done said some vile shit. Yeah, you know, you should believe in giving people second chances and proving themselves. But what is your position? And does it coincide with the policy position of the Democratic Party? If the answer is no, we got a problem. What that got to do with the voters? He didn't say shit about the voters. In fact, he acknowledged the fact that she was elected by the people within her district. He didn't never deny that shit. He just said he didn't like it based on the policy position contrast between the party and her. Nothing wrong with that. On top of that, we're talking about democracy versus infrastructure. Ta-Nehisi Coates looked at it as it was some type of attack on democracy. No. He's attacking the infiltration of the infrastructure, and that's what it is. If you don't think these people want to break the Democratic Party from the inside out, like you're fooling yourself, man. And I don't believe Van Cat or anybody like that I know of personally believes that. Meaning in the sense of they don't understand and acknowledge that part of it. But we can't be this gullible, man. Keep left. It come off as informational grifting. You know what I'm saying? And that's hard for me to say because I know a person like Ta-Nehisi Coates mean well. I know he do. But it's like you know, the way he messaged, the reaction was opportunistic to me because the shit you said didn't have nothing to do with what James Carville said. You just playing off a role. Here's another keyword because it's the popular keyword thing to do right now. Well, to a certain degree. Continue on route. And I even question that. You know, I even question that. Just got to keep it real. Populism is the scourge of America right now. It's the scourge. And the walls is closing in with that shit because it's coming from the left and the right. There is no difference between, and I'm talking about from a structural standpoint, there is no difference between a Trump and a Mamdani. I'm gonna keep that shit real. There is no difference. Let me put emphasis on structural. Of course, they everything is different from a personal standpoint. That ain't what the fuck I'm talking about. Structurally, it's all the same because the structure is populism. True and true. Ain't no denying that. How somebody, again, when we talk about democracy, and you know, again, at this point, it's been lost in translation because we substitute democracy for a constitutional republic. We understand the constitutional republic, but it don't roll off the tongue like democracy did. So the definition has been marred and skewed to fit our talking points. You know what I'm saying? And that shit need to change. It need to change. Because in America, we use the process of democracy to elect our representatives in local, state, and federal government. But the very things that that government can do is restricted by the Constitution. So what takes priority? Democracy or infrastructure? That's why I posed that question. There's a clear choice. I say the same shit every time when I have an argument talking about democracy. If in the 1860s, if Abraham gave the American people a choice to go to war with the South or not, overwhelmingly the people would have said no. Overwhelmingly. That's democracy. That's democracy. Wouldn't nobody in their right mind go for some shit like that? And it's getting dark here, so I mean, we just got to keep it real. So again, I'll be playing this video again on Thursday for TFP because I want to get Venkat's reaction to this video. I found it troubling. You know, first and foremost because it was disingenuous, and it didn't Ta-Nehisi Coates didn't read into what Carville said. If he would have came at it or argued it from a policy standpoint, I would have had no issue with that video, and I would have never played it. Because that's something that's essentially out of our hands. Now, again, in the process of democracy, you elect certain representatives that's going to reflect that constituency's position on certain issues. That's no doubt. So are you now saying? Because like I said, this ain't got shit to do with affordability and all the shit that they be talking. This ain't got nothing to do with that. Y'all know what this got to do with. So would I be in the wrong if I said that them electing her and the other people in the other districts in New York was a representation of those people? That would also be false, and I'm not going to do it. Because some people don't go with that shit. So I just wanted to come up here and say that, man. Just something for y'all to ponder on. Something for y'all to ponder on. Just think about it, and I'll get your thoughts on it on Thursday. But until then, I don't know. Maybe tonight, maybe. Because I'm well rested or whatever. I got plenty of sleep last night. Maybe tonight. If not tonight, then tomorrow after I get back. I'm starting to play through a Fallout 1. So y'all be on the lookout for that as well. Hell, I might pop up tonight. Who knows? We'll see. But with that being said, if y'all didn't see the beginning of the video, check that out. Look at the video with Ta-Nehisi Coates and let me know your thoughts. With that, I say peace. Y'all have a good night, man.
We